Episode number 220 with Joe LaPinta. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton.
Hey, Steve. It's Mike.
Mikey, and this week we have a returning guest, Joe LaPinta. You guys remember Joe? He won a circuit ring, was a long cash game grinder, and I'm kind of interested about this one, Mikey, because now he's got a full-time job.
Yeah. I don't really know the details too much. I asked his company, I looked it up, and then I quickly started reading about some of the stuff they're doing, and I got frustrated and closed my computer because it's real smart guy stuff. So I don't know if this, I'm guessing this is, he's taken a permanent step away from poker. This is a full-time job. I don't know if it's like a temporary gig or something, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely.
I don't know. Cool. This will be interesting. But, I think you might have rubbed off on me a little bit. I haven't had a piece of meat in, I think this is day 3.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, I put 36 hours in the tweet, but I realized after I said that it's actually been plus 24. So anyways, I started this 3 days ago. Apparently I can't do math.
What inspired this? Just talking to me, or was it somebody else you...
You know, have you seen the video on Netflix called The Game Changers?
No, I think I heard it. Isn't Schwarzenegger in it? And
yeah.
I want to see that. It's about people who switch to a plant-only diet, right?
Yeah. That I think was the tipping point. I guess I've kind of always been going that. I mean, like I started, you know, what was tough for me was I figured I had this game figured out, you know what I mean? As far as like diet and nutrition, and that documentary really made me question it. Especially now that I'm trying to run a marathon. I've got a half marathon here in a few weeks. Any little edge I can get, if simply eating nothing but vegetables immediately before the race will help me do better, which I'm already testing, and I am running better when I'm only having like a vegetable fruit smoothie before I run instead of my usual eggs and spinach.
Right.
What if I just did this all the time?
Yeah, exactly. Again, I'm more interested, of course, in not getting cancer, which is one of the things.
That's another huge one, and they talk about it in there too.
Yeah, I have no air quotes here, physical performance anymore. You know. But yeah, I mean, I'm like I said, I don't know enough about it. Just like with poker, Steve, the more we talk about poker, the more I realize I don't know what I'm talking about. I think it's the same thing with I can just direct people to say that I've listened to people who sound very convincing on the subject.
Yeah. You know, the cancer thing for me too, it's so common among firemen. That's one of the leading causes of the way we die. And I think it's just the shit we're exposed to, but I don't know, if you just Google like top 10 things that cause cancer, I think meat's right up there with like sugar and, you know, smoking.
Right. And dairy is supposedly like a really,
dairy
really
is
bad
apparently horrible for you. Yeah.
I went, like I said, I made it about 3 months with none of that. I think I had like 2 In-N-Out burgers over 3 months where I had no sugar, no dairy, no meat.
Yeah. And how much did you lose?
That was like 40 pounds. I mean, a lot of that was just eating less. I mean, technically you could have just one massive meal a day with burger and sugar. You probably would still lose, but yeah, the issue long-term is just physical. And I was looking what you cook, Steve. Here's the advantage you have.
Okay.
You know how to cook.
I do.
You would be very committed, I'm sure. You probably already are, to making sure you're not sacrificing anything in the culinary pleasure department there.
Yeah, the smoothies in the morning are probably a 4 out of 10, and I could make them a lot better by adding sugar. I've actually been testing my blood glucose after like my egg breakfast meal, and then now after these smoothies ones, and it's about the same as far as like, you know, I'll wake up, my blood sugar's 85, I do the smoothie and it's in the 90s, and that's it. I thought the fruit that I was putting in the smoothies was going to spike it a lot more. So I don't really think that the fruit's that bad for you as far as like the sugars in it making you fat. I think like a yam would probably be better, but it does have to taste like something for me to be able to swallow that. Jesus. But when I saute and, do like stir fry veggies and stuff, it's pretty good. The spices I use and everything.
Sure.
I did something I've never done before today, but after playing cards today, normally I treat myself to a burger or something at my local card room, this time I did the pho with tofu, which is something I never would have done before.
That doesn't excite me. If they had a veggie burger, that's a different thing. But tofu is, I got the one guy who's a poker player. He's probably like 70 years old. I mean, him and his wife, he's very evangelical about this, how much better he feels, how much better his health is. And
yeah,
he's going to Sacramento for 5 days. And they specifically, rather than staying in a hotel, got a little B&B or whatever, Airbnb with like a kitchen so they can make sure they're cooking their own meals.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's kind of,
I try to do that when I travel too. If I know, or we know that we're going to be in a place for, 2 or more days, I usually get like a little apartment, and then you just go to the grocery store. You can make your own food. It's so much cheaper and it's a lot more fun,
right?
Than just sacking up in a hotel.
You said you played cards today? I
did. Yeah. I went in, played a tournament, folded every single hand for about an hour and 20 minutes, and then saw King 4 of Hearts. That was the best hand I'd seen all tournament. I had about 6.5, 7 big blinds. Shoved it effectively from the button because there was 3 OMCs to my left, and the guy on the button basically told me he was folding. And so I was like, okay, I got to get through the blinds here. So I shove it, and then the small blind wakes up with the aces. So that was GG.
Well played, Steve. Well played.
Thank you. Yes, stellar performance.
Why don't you listen to? So you don't have time to study. You can at least listen to a couple poker podcasts and learn. Oh, wait a second. Sorry.
And
never mind.
Yeah. So that was the tournament. GG. Then I went and played a little cash. That was fun. I got a guy. I had jacks and he had 10, so that paid me off. So that was
okay.
Made the session nice.
I had an interesting little experience at the casino today too. I showed up early, and usually like at least the 2-3s running after I drop my son off.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to go home for my high school 30th reunion next week, by the way. So
oh, cool.
The way between the flight and the time I'm not like it's like I'm like committed to trying to make up $1,500 to pay for this in my mind. Anyways, so playing even more than I do, which is always a fucking shitload. But anyways. Mm-hmm. I go there, and only the 1-2's running with a $60 cap.
Oh.
So I decided, you know what? Let's just have fun and shove some chips in here. So I just shoved blind for about 30 or 40 minutes, and ended up. And here's the funny thing, though, Steve. I don't know. I can applaud my own generosity. I do like to see other people having fun.
Okay.
The pleasure and joy of these people playing this game was so intense I couldn't stop. So I just kept going. Of course, if there's like once I did run it up to $200 just shoving blind.
Yeah.
I got cooler once, queens to aces, which is pretty fun. But it was so fun seeing them all excited. And like, there's only one other table in the casino going, a 4-8 limit Omaha game. And like, some guy's like, hey, Joe, you got to come over and check this out. And a couple of people are coming over. We got like a rail going at 7:30 in the morning.
That's awesome.
So I brought some pleasure to some other people here. But then I played a little Big O and broke even, basically. So
okay. Well, what's the limit on Big O?
500 is the max. Actually, I was thinking about that.
Is it pot limit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Split pot game, but you get 5 cards. That's why it's the Big O.
Yeah, yeah. And you got it. It's just like Omaha. You got to play 3 on the board and 2 in your hand.
Yes.
Okay.
So it is. That I don't know. That might be interesting. I bought a book from a guy writing about that, and I actually contacted him personally about possibly getting some coaching. Maybe he's a Red Chip poker coach. The site that Andrew.
Oh, cool.
So maybe we should try to get him on.
Yeah, I'd be curious about that game. They have it at my casino.
I mean, they always say in PLL, you really need the nuts. Now, when it's Big O and you got 5 cards, you really, really, really need the nuts.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, yeah, you can flop the nuts straight in like a multi-way pot and have like 10% equity.
Wow.
I mean, it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but even if you had like aces with, I don't know, 9, 10 deuce and 6, 7, 8 is the flop. Let's say 2 spades. You don't have a spade, even blocker, and 2 other people want the pot. Well, you're drawing dead for the low end of it. Well, not if you had aces. Let's say you had kings or something. But if that's 50% of the pot, let's just say you didn't have. And between the other 2, one of them has a set, one of them has a flush draw, one of them has both of them, at least one of them has draws to a better straight.
Yeah.
Probably like a 9 or a 10. One of them would have 8, 10, 8 jack, or you know what I mean? So it's
yeah.
So it's kind of going through some of the equity. You'll be surprised how little equity you have in certain spots. And I flopped the wheel.
Okay.
And I already knew I was in trouble in one hand today where I got caught. That tells you kind of how it was. Like somebody else I knew I had the wheel, and I knew somebody had a flush draw and someone had a better. So I don't remember the details of the hand enough to go over it, but yeah, it was kind of it's an interesting, fun game. And I've played it enough where I can
look at the players that play the game, and if their Big O skills are anything like their Hold'em skills, it's a very good game to get into. I should probably learn that game.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's certainly pros in this game. You can make a living playing this game.
Yeah, I bet.
So you have to, but like today, I can kind of know which ones are the good ones now.
Yeah. Okay.
And kind of avoid, especially if I start the game when I'm there at 10 or 11 in the morning, I can kind of sniff out which is. But yeah.
Which one's the best?
I think I'll stick to. But we still have the same issue I've talked about with just too many damn pros at Oceans, and I'm going to be playing elsewhere a fair amount of the time, and then also, but playing Big O there would not be a good option.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of hourly I would have there.
Well, you gotta log it and find out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I keep track. I just, my first 100 hours were losing. I mean, I guess I just say now that I'm learning the game a little bit. Mm-hmm. I know somebody who has like an $80 an hour.
The Big O?
Yeah, with a $500 cap. So
that's impressive. Okay.
I did bug somebody for that number, and they gave it to me. I'm always curious what people make, and it's usually not information people give out, but I'm such a needy, likable guy. People want to help me out, Steve. You know how that is.
Yes. Yeah.
you must be texting Joe here. You're so bored with me here. You're trying to terminate this conversation, Steve. I understand that. Now you know how I feel, Barton. Do you see?
That's exactly what I was doing. I was getting Joe like, we're about to call you. Oh, you know me too damn well, Mikey. You know me too damn well. But yeah, let's see. Vegan diet. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with this or be done with it or whatever. But the part that the hunting part, like I literally like go out and get my own deer and bring it back, and that's what I eat, for the year. And this kind of even goes against that. They even did testing on, between organic and regular, and it's just as according to that film, it seems like it's all bad.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you have to the book. I mean, there's a lot of the plant only thing is really taking it off. It's not just a little subculture here. There's like the Burger King has a plant only burger now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's kind of everywhere. But the book that I read, and I think I suggested to you, How Not to Die or whatever.
Yeah.
That has it seemed really compelling and well studied and everything like I said.
Yeah.
That eating off the fruits and the nuts and the berries, the veggies, the plants is the way to go. But burgers taste good. But I think at least last time, I don't know why I got back at it. After like a few weeks, the veggie burger tastes good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I see. I really need to learn how to cook, I think. But even at the casino, I could have, even just like the brown rice and the sliced bananas and the grilled
Yeah.
bell peppers was, it was a good meal.
Yeah. 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 I think what I need to do is I need to look at meat as like a cheat meal, you know?
Yeah.
And once a week I have a cheat day and I go and I eat whatever the hell I want. And I think if I can limit that day to the meat day, 6 out of 7 is pretty fucking good. you know?
And if you're still feeling the need to kill things, Steve, you can just take the AK-47 out to the garden and really teach the cauliflower who's boss. You don't have to. You don't have to kill a damn deer.
Make the broccoli dance.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a challenge. I don't know how to cook. I really don't even like vegetables. I like the bell peppers. I can have like the spinach in the smoothies was pretty good.
Yeah, I do a lot of spinach in the smoothie. I found that spinach consumed 2 to 3 hours prior to a workout drastically improves your performance. It's like 20%. So I do the smoothie with the spinach every time before I work.
Broccoli, they really give great respect as like the 5-star vegetable ever. And like,
okay, I do throw broccoli in,
but I hate broccoli, so I don't know what.
Yeah, I throw it in the smoothies, and that drives the taste from like a 7 to a 4.
Right.
But I figure, fuck it, if it makes me run fast.
Sweet, some natural mango juice in there. There's nothing you can't kill broccoli.
It's just once it's infused, it's just.
I've tried to dump
it
gallon
instantly
of
drops 3
ranch
points no
dressing on
matter what you got in there.
Broccoli, yeah.
Yeah, but anyhow, should we give Joey a call?
Sure.
Okay, we'll take a quick break and be back with Joe LaPinta.
I got supersonic speed that I used to run to you. I stretched my arms for miles and miles and wrapped them all around you.
Joe LaPinta, thanks for coming back on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Right on. Well, you've joined the ranks of the working class now.
Yeah. I'm part of the real world now, with a real job.
Nice. And it's something to do with satellites, or Mike looked it up and just got frustrated and confused. So
Yeah. So it's a company called SES, and
okay.
I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to the news, but there's been a lot of talk about the FCC and 5G and all sorts of stuff like that. So what I'm working on right now is basically a transition plan for moving stuff on our satellites so we can make room for 5G, basically.
So the satellites now are doing 4G or whatever. I'm just going by what I see on my phone. I don't know what any of this means.
Satellites now are actually doing, they're mostly for like TV broadcast, radio broadcast, some data, stuff like that. A lot of video and some data, but basically there's like a section of satellite spectrum called C-band,
Okay.
which is like 500 megahertz, and they're basically talking about taking some of that and kind of putting it aside for 5G. So
Okay.
right now we're kind of playing the waiting game, waiting for the FCC to make a decision on how much of the spectrum that they want to put aside.
Okay.
But we're working on kind of getting a plan ready and in place for whenever they do make that decision.
Can you come up with an analogy for Steve where it's like, how is this similar to like using a Pez dispenser? Because this is.
Okay, so Pez dispenser, huh?
No. I'm looking at Joe's LinkedIn profile here, Steve, and you know what's interesting?
What was that?
This is a goddamn handsome man here. No, it is
Quite
funny
the looker,
though.
huh?
If you said grinder, I'm like, oh, look at this lazy bastard with a beard.
Yeah.
Probably sleep. Now I'm like, oh well, he's yes. This is a technology man here for sure. That's the look.
How did you even get involved in that? I mean, how do you go from poker to that? Like, do you have any kind of background in this? Or?
Interesting. Steve. I was
absolutely no background. So I basically, this is probably like 2 years ago now that I kind of got just really burnt out from playing poker. I loved to like kind of like learn about strategy, talk about it with friends, run simulations, stuff like that. But the actual sitting down and grinding, I just like could not take anymore.
Okay.
So I did a fair amount of soul searching, and I was looking at all sorts of things from like finance to consulting. And I just kind of stumbled up across this job. They were looking for a data analyst, and they had some things about SQL and relational databases. And one of the things that, if you're using Poker Tracker, or I guess probably any, poker tracking software, you're using a SQL database. And that's kind of how all of that data that you collect is stored. So I had a little bit of a background, but not too much.
No, but you already understand the theory and the concepts.
Yeah.
You just got to learn a new software, right?
Yeah, and I actually had taken a class on SQL like a few months before I stumbled across this job. So I had a little bit of a background, but not too much.
Okay. Huh. Right on. And now you're among. Do you get dental insurance and health insurance and all this stuff?
Not yet. Currently, I'm a consultant, and hopefully, once I've been assured a few times that once the FCC gives a ruling, if it's favorable for our company, then I will likely be brought on full time.
Nice.
But for now, I mean, the job is good. I get to do a lot of different things and get a lot of good experience.
That's cool.
So.
Do you work from home, or do you go into the company, or?
I get to do a mix of both. I work with, basically, I have my boss who, whenever she's not in the office, I can pretty much work from home.
Okay.
So it's usually like 3 or 4 days in the office, 1 or 2 days at home.
Okay. Cool. And you like it?
Yeah, I love it. It's very interesting. There's like so much to consider, so much going on, and it's definitely I feel like I've learned so much just about like satellites and how that world kind of operates. Just
what have you learned about satellites? It's fascinating to me. I'm interested in the stars and space and planets and all that stuff, and there is just this entire network of all these little satellites going
Don't try
around
to
the Earth.
sound smart, Steve. Let's just me and you shut up, and hopefully Joe fills the dead air. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know how deep you want me to get into it. It'll probably get really, really boring for this show. But I mean, I just kind of like, I had no idea really like how any of this worked, or kind of, I didn't even realize that that's where our TV came from in most cases.
Really?
Or a lot of the radio that we listen to, where it comes from, and just kind of getting an idea of like, what it takes to send signals, from the ground to the satellites, and then how to pick them up from the satellites, and how they're stored, and all sorts of stuff. It's fascinating.
So does your company have its own satellites, and other companies have their own satellites, and there's just hundreds of these things spinning around the Earth, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I work for one of the bigger ones for the US. Us and Intelsat are probably the two biggest, at least in terms of C-band.
Okay.
And there's like a few other ones, but I mean, my company is actually a European company, and I think Intelsat as well. I don't think any of the C-band companies are actually US companies. One is Canadian, and I think the other three are European.
Okay.
Huh. So basically, you probably got the job through I'm guessing the licensing classes in Excel, or I forget what you say, the mastering data analysis. That's probably not real easy stuff. So they figured anyone who can master this, we can bring on board.
To be honest, I think it was. It's kind of funny when my boss kind of tells the story where she said, I saw your resume, and to be completely honest, I only brought you in because I wanted to know what a poker player was like. And so I don't think she had the the highest of expectations when she brought me in. But I think over time, she's kind of realized what I'm capable of and how quickly I pick things up. And so my role has kind of evolved over time as she's gotten to know me.
Putting together a resume. This is probably the first resume you put together in 10 years. Did you get anybody to help you out with that, or how'd you?
Yeah. I had quite a few people helping me out. My brother has done pretty well for himself, and he's been in business. He does hiring for his company, so I ran it by him, and I had my girlfriend's mother helped me out a bunch writing my resume, and eventually got it to a place where it was good enough to be called in as for somebody who wanted to see what a poker player was like.
That's cool. That's all you needed.
You got to look at his LinkedIn, Steve. It's impressive. He makes it sound not just like just a bastard who wants to hang around in card rooms and make money. No, this was an intellectual pursuit for sure.
Yeah. I'm reading through your LinkedIn right now. It's it's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How does the lady like the new job? Is that more opportunity to do things, travel, or now that you're not your own boss, it's worse for that respect?
I mean, for right now, there's not. Yeah, I mean, for right now, it's definitely been an adjustment. But I mean, we weren't doing a ton of traveling beforehand.
Okay.
But I think she's definitely enjoying it. She understands this a lot more than she understands poker. So for her, that's comforting.
Okay.
Yeah.
There wasn't any pushing you in the direction like this is not a real profession poker player,
No, I don't think
that
so.
kind of stuff.
I think,
no.
yeah, she just kind of was like, oh, okay, you do this and you make money. Okay. Like she didn't really understand much of it. And she still doesn't really understand much of it. I don't think so. It was more like, I just want you to do what's going to make you happy. And
Right.
Yeah.
for me, it was just kind of wanting to think about things the same way I thought about poker, but just in a different setting.
Yeah. That's cool.
So what do you miss about poker? Is there anything you miss about it now, or is that you can still fire up the computer once a month and
yeah, I think I miss waking up at 10 o'clock in the morning, sleeping in, but no, I don't really miss playing all that much. I think I miss kind of talking to people about it. I miss just like the discussions around it.
Yeah.
And just not being in poker, it kind of like makes that tough.
Yeah. Do you ever find yourself just once a month going down there and spending a Saturday, or have you not played like?
So I think the last time I played poker was in May.
Okay.
And I actually started playing with the intention of kind of making it like a bit of a side gig.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting a pretty substantial raise at work. So then I was kind of like, okay, well, I don't really need to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And then once I didn't need to do it, it was kind of like I didn't really want to do it as much as I thought I did.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah,
Cool.
we'll see though. I mean, now I'm actually in Pennsylvania now. So now with Pennsylvania getting online poker.
You moved?
Yeah.
Oh, right on. What,
about a month ago.
For the job, I'm assuming, or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was about an hour and 15-minute commute for me from where I was living in New Jersey, and I'm like just over the border in Pennsylvania now, and it's about 35-40 minutes.
Okay, cool. You like the setting there? Is it more like were you
Pennsylvania-ish?
Yeah, I mean,
Can't be that different.
I'm picturing my dad's side of the family. They live near Langhorne.
I am in Langhorne.
Get the fuck out of here! Are you serious?
I am dead serious. Yeah, I think I'm technically in. Technically,
Chamonix Creek. The Chamonix Creek.
Yeah, I'm technically in Levittown, but when I put in my GPS, it comes up Langhorne.
Levittown, PA. Yes. Oh, damn, that's funny. Small world.
Oh yeah.
It's a beautiful area, though, isn't it? Okay, so for
Yeah.
the 2,500 people that have no idea what we're talking about, it's this real cute old setting, like back in the, that town was probably back there 250 years ago. And the roads make it look as such, and it's kind of a lot of old, what are those trees? Are they oak or?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay. Anyways, a bunch of beautiful oak trees. You get all the seasons. You get snow and so you probably got snow right now, huh?
No, we didn't get any, but it got very cold.
Okay. You haven't had the snow yet.
Yeah, just some rain.
Right on. Cool. Yeah, when I was a kid, we'd go down to the Neshaminy Creek when we'd go there for Christmas, and we'd walk out on the ice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, memory lane.
For those who like walking on ice and looking at trees, Steve, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
it sounds exciting.
Riveting, huh?
I personally prefer Atlantic City, but
Right on.
Joe, can I ask? Well, I don't know how I'm just looking at his. Were you ever a losing poker player, or right from the beginning you knew it was something you needed to study, and you were like, just when you're talking about right now, how you didn't like the playing, but you still like the studying? Were you kind of like that from the beginning?
I would say not really. I think I was probably a losing player in the beginning. And then I think I'm very competitive, so I think my desire to just be better than people kind of drove me to study. And I started back in the early 2000s, going on 2+2 and like just reading what people were posting and what people were talking about, and kind of started there.
What? How long did you do it professionally? Full time?
I think I did it for about 7 years.
Okay. Yeah. I know.
Well, Steve, it only took me like 11 years to go from a losing player to someone who could make $45 an hour at 2.5. So, I mean, I wish I was Joe's roommate. It would have been a faster process. Let me tell you that much.
Yeah. What are you still coaching at all, or have you kind of stopped that as well?
No, I haven't really been doing that. I think I'd be open to it, but I would feel a little bit guilty just not being in the game myself. And kind of, I guess from like a theoretical point of view, it doesn't really change, but I don't know, it just hasn't really been something that I've been.
Just if you don't need the money. He does give me a little free coaching. Joe is very generous. If I tweet at him about a hand, he'll let me know.
Well, I was actually, Mike and I were hoping we could get a little bit of free coaching here in the next 45 minutes or so, Joe, so I wouldn't sell yourself short. Right on.
Joe in 10 years could have his own company, be worth like $200 million, and I'd still be like, totally, Mike, I've worked a long day. God damn it.
I'm very curious
What's
to see
your
where
range here?
where you go in the next 5 years, because I got a feeling you're going to attack this new job just like you did poker, and it's obvious that your focus is and it sounds like you got just the mind for it, like what you're describing about the software. Like,
I mean,
I think you're going to be very good at this.
Yeah, I got very fortunate. I got a job with a fantastic boss who is willing to give me chances to try different things, and this job has evolved quite a bit since I started, only like 10 months ago.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
You ever feel a little overwhelmed where you're like, this is harder than I thought it would be? God damn it! I want to cozy up under a blanket and play some 200 cap games online. Or
yeah, it's funny. Not really about the work itself, but just like especially like when I first started, I was so not used to a typical day in a work environment in the corporate world. It was such a shock for me. So that was like probably the toughest part about it, is just getting used to that. getting used to just you know, I don't know, just
You
waking up early and having to be certain places at a certain time. That was
Do you have
very
to you have to go out and buy a couple suits and ties, or is this a casual work environment?
Yeah, I mean, I did a little bit of shopping beforehand. Yeah, it's pretty casual, but you know,
You can't walk in a Hawaiian shirt every single day.
no, definitely not. I've had to make some business trips to kind of meet with other companies that are working on this project. So yeah, I've had to be dressed business appropriate. So
Well, cool. Well, I've got a hand. I think you've got a couple, right, Mikey?
Sure.
Okay.
Whenever Steve says I got a hand, I got to take like 3 deep breaths. It really is the prostate exam. But
oh, that's great. All right. I was at my local card room today, Joe. And I busted out of a tournament pretty quickly. And so I went over to the 2-3 no limit. It's got a 300 cap buy-in. So you start with 100 bigs. I had jacks hold up against tens, so I'm up to 5, or maybe it was like 520, about around 500. UTG with a stack of about 180. He opens to 25, which is a little bit bigger than most people are raising in this game. Most of the time when they open, it's somewhere between like 10 to 20. So this is just a tiny bit more than that.
people open at 20, at 2-3. That's a real big opening, I think, especially, yeah.
Yeah. But anyhow.
It's just the way it is. Okay.
Just the way it is, yeah. That's the way this table's playing. The guy to my right, OMC, Old Man Coffee, he re-raises and he makes it 50. I think for him to do that, his range is probably, I don't even know if it's ace queen, because I saw him with ace queen offsuit and he didn't 3-bet it twice before. I saw him do that 2 times with ace queen offsuit and he just called.
How deep is the guy to your right? I'm not sure.
Initial opener was 180. The guy to my right has 700 to 800.
Okay.
And we've got like 500. And we look down at ace king of diamonds.
Okay. What position are you?
I'm about, let's see, that would be the hijack. Now, a little bit of information we got. The cutoff and the button are both folding. I'm looking to my left and I can just, the way they're holding their cards, it's just, they're folding. The small blind and big blind haven't looked at their hands yet.
Okay. I mean, personally, if this guy truly is an Old Man Coffee, I'm pretty terrified here. I mean, before looking at my hand, obviously. I lean towards just calling.
Okay.
I don't want to get in like almost 200 bigs pre-flop against a guy like this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really overly concerned about the guy with 180. You know, if it ends up like you flatting, that guy shoves for 180 and Old Man Coffee folds, like it's a pretty easy call.
Yeah.
If he shoves 180 and then Old Man Coffee shoves, and I'm probably just folding, to be honest.
Yeah. What about the scenario we flat the UTG shoves, Old Man Coffee calls?
Yeah, that would be strange.
Yeah, yeah, that would be a bit strange. That'd be pretty interesting.
Would you think? How about ace king off quickly? Is that something you may just throw in the muck here?
Yeah, I think maybe.
Ace king off, I would fold. I feel like, I mean, like when I saw Old Man Coffee do that, then I was like, yeah, this would be a great time to have aces. Hope I don't see jacks or queens.
Yeah,
Are we?
I would feel pretty good about folding jacks.
I would too. Yeah. Yeah.
I was going
Queens
to
would
ask.
be tough, but I probably would fold queens too. Like the thing here is like, yeah, okay, sometimes you make the wrong decision with queens, but how often, and are you really losing by just folding queens? I don't really think so. I think you're probably, that's probably a more profitable play than anything else,
Yeah.
given the player type.
That's a spot. At least once or twice a week, there's a spot where with jacks or queens, I'm like, yeah, I'm probably ahead of his range here slightly, but it's like if I looked at it, it costs me nothing just to fold, and there's better spots.
Yeah.
I mean, do you really think you're ahead of his range? A guy like that's probably not 3-betting ace queen.
Well, not maybe this exact spot, but I guess other close spots where.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Jacks and queens, just they're you like to see them, but against deep stacked against somebody who loves their hand, they're just even against someone who has a little flip out range, it's still not great. But yeah, I don't know. I think just overcall here is fine, especially when you got position on both of them.
Okay. All right. So you both are on team call.
Yeah, I am for sure.
Okay. All right. We call, and UTG calls as well. So we go to a flop, 150 in the pot. The flop is queen of hearts, 6 of clubs, 4 of hearts, queen 6-4, 2 hearts. We have the ace king of diamonds. UTG checks. OMC, he just kind of grabbed some chips and put them out, and then the dealer counted them for him, and it was 60.
It was how much?
60.
60. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably just giving up here. Yeah, I mean, our hand certainly didn't improve. I don't think this flop is in any way bad for, the guy to your right's range.
Either their ranges, really. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't really read into anything like sizing. I think if, granted, like for somebody who's playing like a more balanced strategy, like this sizing makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I think this particular player is thinking like that, but yeah, I mean, I would probably just fold.
Okay. You too, Mikey?
yeah, I think so. I was just curious what Joe thinks. With such a small like stack to pot ratio, even if it's like queen 10 with a diamond, like queen 10-6 with a diamond, is that still kind of a give up, even though you've got more equity? Because if you call here, you're already like got a pot of 300 on the turn kind of thing. I mean, I know that's not the hand we're playing. I'm just curious.
I mean,
I think if it was queen 10 with like the 6 of diamonds or something, I think I would be more likely to, I could see myself calling there. That might be a mistake. We could be drawing to like 4 outs,
I think it's interesting. I think, I think if you're heads up, it's like almost definitely a call.
Maybe with the under the gun there with 150 behind him.
Yeah,
you got 130. Maybe that makes it's still a fold.
How often are you not even going to get to see the turn after calling 60?
Yeah, good point.
Like, how often are you going to call and then under the gun's going to shove and old man coffee is going to shove over top of that or something like that? I don't know, probably not a ton, but I think maybe it's so close to begin with that maybe that pushes it, even closer or makes it a fold. I don't know. I'd probably call personally, but but it's definitely close.
Okay. Right on. I end up folding. I felt like the main decision here was pre-flop. I was curious what you guys would do pre-flop like that, but Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking of folding, and then I'm like, God, you have a suited ace king here. Really, are you are you really gonna fold this? And but anyhow, that was that.
Yeah, I think you've got to play to just curious. I don't know, Joe, if this is what would just go back to like you're studying. Would you play, were you always playing like the same, like 100 big blind, 2-4 poker? I mean, I'm kind of switching games in casinos now, and I have to constantly think about like switching my ranges and adapting to 100 big blind versus like 200, 300 big blind poker, and like what you can do, how you can open your game up.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I think that was probably like the weaker part of my game. When I played live, I mean, I was definitely thinking about those things, but I was not as good about, really exploiting how, how poor of decisions other people are making. That certainly wasn't my strong suit. But yeah, I mean, I think that's like a pretty big part of live poker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I have a hand here, Stevie.
There we go.
I sent Joe a couple hands and asked him if they're any interesting. He said he naturally wanted to embarrass me and it's like, here's the one you fucked up the most. So let's
let's start with that one.
Yeah, naturally. So, Steve, this is a 5-5 game. Okay. And I am in the, we'll just go to the action here. The main villain, who I can't remember specifically because this hand was a couple months ago, but I label him Average Loon on my app here. So that gives you an idea.
Okay.
Third to act, he limps. He's got 1,100 in his stack and he limps for $5. And I am 2 to his left with Queen 9 of hearts.
Okay. Average loan. And then, so what position are you in then? Like the cutoff or the
hijack.
Hijack. Isolate, right, Joe?
Yeah, I think especially against the guy, the way you labeled him, that's like pretty standard spot.
Yeah.
We want to go heads up, right? Yeah.
30? Is that what you're thinking, or?
That's what I made it.
Okay. Great minds think alike.
Although again, the fact that we're like 200 big blinds deep is something I like normally like you just go into these 2-3 games where I'm like 100 big blinds deep, like where I reflexively, instinctively want to isolate people here. You get like the overcallers and all of a sudden you're like going to a flop with like a 3-to-1 stack to pot ratio kind of shit. But I think here ISOing is pretty standard.
Yeah. Yep. I'm sorry. How much does the average loon have?
The average loon has 1,100 and we started with 1,400.
I got 14. Okay. All right. Does it fold around to him or?
Yes. And he calls.
Perfect. All right.
What the hell was I thinking in this hand? I'm going to have to come up with some bullshit here. Give me a second. Okay. The flop is 10-8-6, the 10-8 of hearts. So we got a straight flush draw there, Stevie.
10-8 of hearts. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, so we got 60 in the pot with Queen 9 of hearts. We get a flop of 10-8-6, 2 hearts. And the average loon checks bets.
Does this guy actually lead into me? Yeah, he leads into me for $30.
30 into 70. You're raising here, right, Joe?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Sizing. What would Joe say? WWJS. What would Joe say? I would say Joe will raise to 115.
I'm gonna raise to $140.
Ooh, too low. Okay. Right on. What's your
You just trying to make me feel good, Joe?
Well, I'm building you up before I break you down.
Do you have the hand in front of you? Okay, I raised to 140.
I love it. Okay.
Now, when we call him an average loon, I'm just a guy who plays really wide, who's never folding a pair, maybe is how I would think of him. Do we want to even make it bigger here, or do you like the sizing?
I like the sizing. I think you don't have to go too big because you don't want to make it to where you can't bet the turn because you don't really want to just stick the money in on a blank turn.
Right.
So you want to keep it small enough that you can barrel, and but big enough, obviously, to charge what is probably a very wide range.
Okay. Well, I raised to 140, and the guy calls. And the turn is, there's now 350 in the pot, and the turn is the 2 of clubs.
Turn is the 2. Okay.
And the loon checks to me.
Let's see. Well, even I guess like on the flop, we're a favorite even against a hand like King 10 or Queen 10 or Ace 10 or something like that. Was the 6 a club as well, or do you remember?
The 6 was a spade.
Spade. Okay, so there's not a backdoor flush draw. I say take a free card. Are you thinking the same, Joe?
No, I think I'm definitely betting here.
Okay.
I think that it's fairly, especially when he leads, it's not a particularly strong play. I don't expect him to have better than one pair almost ever.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely betting here. I'm betting here with the intention of probably shoving the river.
Regardless.
Especially like a blank river, because obviously if it's like a scary river, like let's say the river is like a 9, so we make a pair of 9s, but we might not be good. I wouldn't want to bluff that river, obviously, because we can't. It's a lot harder for us to rep a 7 than the river be a deuce, and we can just rep like ace, jacks plus or whatever.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to bet. I think we still have quite a bit of equity, and I think we set up a pretty favorable spot on the river when we do miss.
Even if the board pairs on the river, you think it's still a shove spot? I would think it'll lower the chances of him folding a pair. Certainly,
if the board is if the river is like a 10, I'm probably not shoving. Probably not shoving an 8, but I think a 6 or what was the turn? A 4?
A deuce.
A deuce. Okay, so yeah, I think a 6 or a deuce, I'm probably still shoving.
Okay. And then you're still shoving any heart, any jack.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah.
I'm probably betting like 200 on the turn.
I was going to say 200 would make it 750 in the pot and leave the villain with $730. So yeah, that would be the exact size we would go if we're trying to set up the river shove
right now.
I pulled the Barton and checked back. I guess it was just I can't remember the villain specifically. I just like, well, he's I'm blocking all the draws, and he's got a pair, and he's never folding. I guess that's just
that's kind of where my mindset was at. I'm like, I think he has a 10 here a lot. I think he has an 8 here, not as often as a 10. And
but he is capped for sure.
Yeah. He's got one pair, I think. I don't see how he would ever have
just
better
because
than that.
I mean, I call him a loon, but it doesn't mean that he's ready to call off $1,000 with just a 10 here necessarily. And there's a lot of other good bluff cards in the river besides, Ace King probably gets him to fold a 10, maybe, unless he's got 2 pair, maybe,
Yeah. I guess maybe I'm looking at it too much like on the flop, we're probably 60% against a 1 pair. And on the turn now, we're not 60 anymore. We're probably 40. But yeah, maybe you're right, Joe. If you just go 3 streets here, is he really going to call you down with 1 pair? Especially when the river's like a king?
Yeah. I mean, what's nice too is that, if you're worried like he's never going to fold, which, you are probably right. A lot of people will have like, a pair and a straight draw here or something like that, like 8-7 or 9-8.
Mm-hmm.
but like that makes it just even more profitable to bet the turn with the intention of shoving the river, because you're going to get $200 extra every time you shove the river and he folds.
Right.
So I mean, I think on some level that kind of makes me want to bet the turn more.
Yeah. Okay.
What turns would you be checking back here, or is there really most turns other than maybe just a 10 or an 8? Just everything else is probably a barrel, right?
Yeah, I think so. I might check back a queen or a 9.
Okay, that would make sense. Yeah.
Maybe not a queen though. Actually, a queen I might still just bet. Queen stuff. Queen's close.
Well, you block check 9.
Yeah, I mean, queen's close because I don't think you're going to get 3 streets anyway.
Oh.
So it might just make more sense to check, being that you kind of like block you kind of have all the draws covered. So you're really only like worried about a 9 peeling on the river.
Okay.
But yeah, queen's close. I mean, I could kind of go either way with that. On one hand, I think you get called very often against this type of opponent. I don't know if you're going to get 3 streets from him if it comes like queen and then blank deuce on the river. But certainly a 9 I'm checking, and that's probably the only one I'm definitely checking. 10 and an 8 as well.
Now that I've made the mistake of checking back the turn, now what are we thinking about? Are we basically just hoping to have the best hand by the river to hit queen, 9, jack, or a heart? Or are there still some, like maybe an ace? Are we still blasting the river if check 2?
Yeah, I think you could still bet an ace, but I think that's probably the only card that you're gonna win on this river without improving.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. I do not improve. I have a 4 of clubs on the river, and the villain checks to me. And as played, I guess I played it properly on the river. I checked back, and the villain had the 7-4 off. So he did have a gutter ball that he called to raise with on the flop.
Wow.
Yeah.
I see why you labeled him average loon.
Yeah, there's a few of them.
Yeah, they're sprinkled in, just dusted here and there.
I like sharing the hand, Steve, where, yes, I'm victimized, but God darn it, didn't this idiot win a hand off me? Maybe I should have won anyways. I can improve at poker, but also search for some sympathy.
Yeah. That had to be such a stinger. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing.
What do you,
Oh,
Steve?
okay.
That's the happiest I've seen you been.
That was a good story, Zach. All right, so the move is betting the turn, right, Joe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, blast the river. All right, right on. You got another one, Mikey?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, I could just randomly pull one up here. Maybe we should let Joe go though. We got the. I can't remember. I had a big hand the other night. Maybe I'll put this up. This might have been one I sent Joe here. I thought this was maybe a little bit interesting for a few reasons. 5-5 game. I have ace 5 of clubs, and I am in the straddle.
Okay.
And we are like 6-handed. This is like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Is this like an under the gun straddle, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay.
And the guy to my left, he's the action dude for sure. He's got 1,600 and just plays a lot of hands. You know, you're looking to play a hand with him and win a big pot. So he opens under the gun to 50 and it folds to me.
Okay.
I know one buddy I asked, he said, well, this is just a fold pre. I thought, against this particular villain. I really wanted to see a flop. I don't know if it was a 9-handed, like a full ring game, maybe. That's more a fold because theoretically his range should be stronger.
How effective are you, or how deep are you effective?
Like 1600.
1600. Okay.
So you both have. Well, you're playing 1600 effective. It doesn't matter. Okay.
And you say he plays a lot of hands, but does he play them like aggressively pre-flop?
He'll just call flat a lot of 3-bets, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just very stationy, I think. Overvalues his hands. Yeah, it's just not very good. I mean, he's definitely a losing player there. For sure. I don't know. There's a lot of loons around. I don't know where he ranks along those things, but he's got money too. I guess he can lose a big pot and not give a shit. So
yeah. I mean, I don't think that calling is that bad. Again, obviously this is not like, you're up against a tag that's under the gun,
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's player dependent. I think this is probably the type of guy that you're okay calling here.
Would you ever want to 3-bet here? I didn't want to inflate the size of the pot, but of course that is a very good 3-betting hand, and we can certainly get called by worse from this guy.
Probably not closing the action, and against this guy, I just want to play a lot of pots with hands that can make strong hands, and kind of let him make mistakes later.
Right.
I don't think I don't think out of position. I just don't think it's a good 3-bet spot.
It seems like anytime the ace 5 suited come up, it's always one of those that's your balancing bluff 3-bet hand or 4-bet hand. So yeah, just curious here, but I thought, especially that we're pretty deep, I could just call here, which I did. And the flop is 9, 8, 6, 2 clubs.
Which ones are clubs?
The 9 and the 8.
Okay.
You have ace 5 of clubs, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And we got 110 in the middle.
Yes.
Are you ever not leading here, Joe? Or are you going for like a check raise, or?
I don't think I'm ever leading. I think I'm probably check raising here.
Okay. Well, what's the reason for not leading?
Well, he's probably this guy is the sort where maybe we're thinking is going to bet often here.
He's just betting like 80% of the time, and we want to take advantage of that.
Yeah, that's probably a big part of it. I don't really know how you're gonna obviously like your opponents are not going to be thinking about this all the time, but I really don't know how you would balance a leading range in this spot. You can do it in theory, but like obviously in practice, it's going to be really, really tricky.
How about 2 pair hands? Are those leading hands, or those are also check raise or perhaps check call?
I guess if I was going to lead here, I would want to do it with. I think I'd want to do it with weaker hands.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Like I think this hand is like strong, but not overly strong, that I want to I want to give myself I like the idea of giving yourself a chance to win this pot right here by leading. Like if he has a hand like king queen, you just get to win most of the time just by leading. But I don't want to use this hand because obviously I'd rather him c-bet too often, and then I get to check raise. I'd rather lead a hand that has less equity against his range, but can do well enough to make leading like a reasonable play.
Okay.
This is game theory stuff, Steve, that you and I don't. How are we going to conceal the fact we don't know what the fuck he's talking about right now? Steve, why don't you sing an old, play the spoons or something for a second? Let's distract the man.
Oh, it's great.
I tell myself if I ever want to move up in the world and be able to beat 510 live and stuff, I'll have to. These are the kind of spots that I would have to study in some detail and, like you said, know exactly how to balance in your ranges. But I was going for the check raise, and I was surprised a little bit that he checked back.
Okay.
Disappointing.
In terms of ranging him, I don't know. Maybe I think he's probably smart enough though that he might. It's hard to say what he'd do with overpairs here. Yeah, I think he'd probably bet him. He doesn't have a straight or the nuts, I guess, about the only thing I can think to say. You know what I mean? He'd want to bet those.
Probably a lot of overcards like queen jack and stuff like that.
It's hard to reduce his range here, especially because we think he's he's opening so wide pre.
Yeah.
Turn is the ace of diamonds.
Interesting.
Yep.
Now, what are we thinking here, Joe?
I think I'm probably checking here. I think, his hand is probably, or like we're kind of assuming based on his flop action that his hand was pretty weak on the flop. So I think one of two things is true on the turn. Either his hand is now better than ours because he has, something like ace queen, or his hand is basically dead because he doesn't have a pair and we have a flush draw and a straight draw and top pair. So I think I want to be checking, giving him a chance to rep, having turned an ace. And I would be pretty happy check calling here.
That's what several smart people have told me, but I decided to bet. I mean, I guess we can think of a few worse hands he will call with, but not a lot. Jack 10 exactly. Not a lot of hands. I don't really understand betting this for value.
I really like the way you articulated that, Joe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I bet 80, and the villain raises it to 400.
Ugh.
So this was one of those things. Yeah, this is one of those 2 a.m. Like originally, I'm like, oh, good. Well, look, we got a monster hand there. Let's bet and probably can induce this dumb bastard. And then the dumb bastard just 5x's my bet, immediately putting my whole stack in peril, depending on what the river card is. I can't fold, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, this spot really sucks because, like, are you gonna get paid if a club peels off on this river?
That was the other thing. Yeah, you're not. If you're not, then if this is a total bluff, then yeah, there's not even any.
Yeah, and you're definitely not getting stacks if a 7 peels off. And if a 5 peels, you might not be good. And you're also probably not going to get stacks even if you are good. So, yeah, I mean, even calling seems like pretty iffy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. My first instinct was this was a fold. I guess I got to give myself some credit. But then I'm like, well, I can't. I got the ace and I got the flush draw and a straight draw too. If you want to, that could conceivably be some outs if he just hit ace 9 or something.
Sure.
I decide to call, and the river is the 5 of hearts.
Oh wow, interesting.
Final board. The turn was the ace of diamonds, so that brought a second flush draw out there. I don't know how really relevant that is, but the final board: ace 9, 8 6 5. Wait, ace 9 8 6 5. Yes. I assume, are we checking here every time, or would we ever use the old bet fold here to like get him to call maybe with a big ace, but we won't have to. he won't have to call off our whole stack kind of thing, or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is really like, how often do we think he's he's making that raise on the turn with just ace king or ace queen? Like, do we think that's like a reasonable part of his range, or are we kind of it is?
I was confused by his raise. I thought I thought he had just an ace. Yeah, that was my first instinct, that the man has just an ace, and the 5 definitely was a suck out against part of his range.
Okay.
So I guess for that reason we could bet for value here, right? Or but if we think a larger part of his range is he was bluffing on the turn, if there's a lot of that, then we could check, but we might be put in a difficult decision.
Yeah, I mean, I think I am not feeling great about getting called too often by worse. Unless he somehow has like 9-8 that he, for whatever reason, like checked the flop, but I don't think that's going to be too often.
Yeah, I mean, if he's actually, before we go back, just his turn range, I don't know if we talked. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I thought if he had a straight 2-pair set, like all this stuff would bet on the flop. So when he bets the turn, it's like either a bluff or a big ace.
Maybe 2 diamonds
is how I read it. I guess he could have 10 queen of diamonds too, or something. It's possible. A lot of people will just call for $80 there.
Yeah.
I decided to check.
Yeah, I think that's probably where I would land.
And there's 920 in the pot, and the villain shoves his, which is bigger than the pot, $1,175.
Wow.
Oh, does he have any 7s in his range here? I mean, like, is he
Ace 7?
Yeah, ace 7 would make a lot of sense. Is he raising the turn there with like 7-8 or 9-7 or 6-7 or something? Wouldn't he have done that on the flop? Wouldn't he have bet some of that? But he just decided to do it on an ace or something. I don't know.
I mean, like I said, my first instinct was he would have bet all strong hands on the flop. But now he's played it like such a nutty hand. Well, maybe he did flop a straight somehow. You know what I mean? But that's or he flopped a set. But the confusing thing is, if he did have a set, why would he be shoving this river? Isn't it? Or if he did have the big ace,
wouldn't he check back or bet like 200 or something?
Yeah, this is like a very, very odd line. I don't think that
impossible to range this guy here almost, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's a very, very odd line. Like if you were up against somebody who, just played a very straightforward game, like you could easily say like, okay, this guy like basically never has a 7. Like who is like checking back a 7 and then raising it on the turn.
Right?
Like nobody who's playing like any sort of, I don't know, like I don't know. Yeah, not very many people. Maybe some sort of 7x of diamonds, I guess, but yeah, almost nobody. So
would you ever, let's say you had a set of aces here and you were the villain, would you consider shoving river here? Because okay,
I mean, I don't see what you're going to get called by that's going to be worse. You're blocking 2 of the aces, so like the odds of you having aces up, like ace 9 or ace 8, are pretty low, and like even if you did have those hands, you would probably consider folding them. So yeah, I don't really see. I think like if you have aces, your sizing is like not all in, but you are betting.
Right.
I feel way better about my decision if he bet something that wasn't all in. I think like if he bets like 600 here, I'm pretty happily folding. This is very strange,
Right.
but you know, I tend to think that when you know I've come across spots like this, so or I you know in the past I had come across spots like this so often where I'm like I can't possibly arrange this person. This is such an odd line, but every time I find myself in those positions, they just always have it. Like I don't know what it is about
Right.
that. When people take really weird lines, um, they tend to just have really strong hands. So I would probably end up finding a fold here on the river, but I
Yeah.
would be like pretty perplexed.
Yeah, this would be one of those where I would be like, I'll give you $20 right now if you show your hand, or somehow get him to flip over the cards. You know what I mean? Like it. Oh man, because like he's shoving into us, and like when you replay the hand, I mean, we're the one that can have a 7 in it, and he can't.
Yeah.
You know, we called pre-flop, we checked the flop, we bet called the turn. I mean, are we really checking a 7 on the river? I think so, right? But he just opened shoves it. It just feels like he's got it.
I mean, I think we probably don't check a 7, but like, you know, he's not going to know that. And
We don't check a 7 on the river? No?
I,
Yeah, probably not. We'd lose any action against it. Okay, good point.
I think it's actually such a nice card because we can still have bluffs on this river. Like if we did have a 7 and we choose to lead, you know, we can still have bluffs here. But like we kind of, you know, for the same reason that like leading the river is good, that's why him shoving is kind of odd, because like his range doesn't contain a lot of 7s, or at least it shouldn't, and our range should. So that's why like we could lead river. Yeah, so I mean that's kind of why, you know, his line is even more strange.
I mean, well, what else would he be doing this with? There's total airball. There's just the odd action player just going crazy. So we got that. But then is he raising under the gun there, Mikey, with like ace 7 offsuit, ace 9 offsuit, ace 8 offsuit?
Yes, every ace he's raising.
Every ace he's.
Yeah, I think so, probably.
I don't know. I think it's a fold. We could be better.
Well, Steve, I kind of, even if Joe wasn't here, I thought I'd break, because for the first time in a long time, I got a physical tell. I don't know if you listen enough, Joe. Steve is really excited about how people and sit and stuff. Yeah, this was not like a real. I was not even looking at him. I was thinking about it.
You've been holding out on me.
He's directly on my left, and I finally look up the turn at him, and he's just staring at me. Like, you know, like really intense, you know, that's a pretty, unless you give me, that's pretty against the casual players when they're really staring at you. That, to me, that's often a bluff.
Yeah, I might have to. That was on the turn. What about on the river?
This was after the river shove.
Oh, this was after the river shove.
I was thinking, and I was leaning towards a fold, and I turned and I looked at him. I'm like, you know, he wants to get call here. He's going to be dialing attention.
That might turn my decision right there.
I think that's what I did read the Elwood book on tells, and I think I seem to remember that.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I called. Okay. Final decision. I flick in a call.
I called, and he had ace 4 of spades.
So
I don't know what he was thinking.
Oh, so you won. Nice.
I guess we can applaud him for a merge bet on the river there, Joe. I don't know how we'd interpret this. Yeah, it's kind
I think it's a bluff. It's odd because it feels like a bluff that doesn't really like half the bluff. He could have just called turn, and then the river probably would have been like check or something. I don't know.
He was surprised. You know, he thought he had the best hand. He did. I don't know. It's pretty. Yeah. He's like, you got lucky there. I mean, on a certain level, I did. It's right. It really shouldn't matter whether but 4-liner to a straight makes his. I'm just trying to think of other cards on the river that would make it. Strangely, this card seems to be kind of bad for my range in a certain level, but it makes even less sense now that he's betting. So,
I mean, what makes you think that this card is bad for your range?
Well, I guess not bad for my rate. Well, from his perspective, this is a bad card to shove the river with, I guess is, yeah. I mean, the way I'm sorry, I meant to say it. Yeah, I can't even begin to understand what the guy was thinking. Yeah. he does some weird ass shit, but you know, he'll do some weird stuff. There'll be 200 pot. He'll bet 900. He kind of knows his image at least.
Yeah.
He'll be overshoving. He would overshove with the nuts here. If there was 500 in the pot, he probably would shove 2,000 on the river, I guess, if you want to. I don't know if you call that balanced play or not, but
that stare though, that was very profitable for you.
That wasn't me looking for a tell. That was me turning around and look at him, and all of a sudden it's just he's got the Charlie Manson glare. I'm like, wait, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
I think when you see the rec players trying to be confrontational, it's usually because they have a pretty weak hand. And
I don't know. I don't think I was just like talking to myself. I'm like, sir, ace king no good. So obviously he knows ace four isn't good. And so I'm kind of talking to myself, and I look up at him. Then he's like, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if we wasted poor Joe's time with this hand, but I thought it was kind of an interesting.
I mean, I think it's a very interesting hand. I think, like, you know, you saying that, you know, you're leaning towards a fold, and then the kind of physical tell kind of like pushes you over the edge. I think that makes sense, because I think, like, you know, we're sitting here like, this makes no sense, but we feel pretty terrible about it.
Yeah.
So like, without some other, you know, sign to kind of lean us
of info,
yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I remember I was playing, I was driving up to my folks' house. This was years ago, and I stopped in Reno, and I was just playing whatever biggest game they had, which I think was like 2-3 or something like that. And anyways, it got to this point in the hand to where it was at the river decision. I had ace king for a pair of either aces or kings for one pair, and this guy shoved all in on me. This guy to my left, a regular that he played there every day, and I was hemming and hawing, and then the drink lady came, and he and I had ordered a shot like 5 minutes prior, so before this hand even started, you know. And so the drink lady came, and the shot came, and she kind of interrupted like the most tension part of the hand, like just as he shoved and I was making a decision, you know. And there was something about that shot. Like when she delivered the shot, she was kind of pushy, like, you guys need to take it now. I got to deliver 12 other orders and take 15 more, you know. And so we took the shot in the middle of that momentous decision. We cheers and we took it. And there was something about the way he acted that I'm just like, he just doesn't have it here. And, but it never would have happened if that didn't, if the drink lady hadn't come around, I probably would have folded. But there's moments like that when they give away those physical something, and sometimes it's even hard to articulate, that they can be very profitable. Well done, Mikey.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can find other hands in the future to talk about, Steve, but I think this is one thing which I've seen like the last year, which I did not do against, even when there's like a one-liner to a straight or the flush hits on the river. I think you can still bet for value with a lot of hands against the weaker players who just aren't going to bluff raise you.
Yeah.
That isn't necessarily an example, but if I had pocket nines here, you could bet the river if this guy had a set, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Profitably, I think, but
yeah,
obviously if I'm calling off with just two pair, then yes, but anyways,
right on. That was a good hand.
I'm hugging myself, Steve. Hold on one second. There we go. All done.
Full embrace. Right on.
Well, Joe, congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. I think you're going to do well there.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I thought he was going to be setting a light at the end of the tunnel, Steve, for how I can escape poker. But all I've realized is, you know, I should just be grateful for what I have here, because the outside world is a scary place with all these smart people, and you know what I mean.
I mean, you don't feel like getting up at 5:30 every morning and going to work?
Beyond the fact I'm lazy, Steve. You gotta add lazy and useless. You know what I mean? So.
Listen, if you're making 45 an hour at 2.5 or 5.5, and you're still enjoying playing, then, you know, by all means, keep it going.
Yes, I still enjoy it. Most right now I work long hours. I played 250 hours last month, so that's a problem.
Oh my God.
Well, I'm still trying to rebuild from the summer, Steve. So it's that's my goal, is to be get down to a 40-hour-a-week player over the next year. I think I can manage that if I just got to improve the hourly a little bit and drop a few expenses. But anyways, Joe, it's great to have you on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's always
Yeah.
fun.
Thank you for coming on, Joe.
Hopefully
No
you can still find the time to answer my questions. I do appreciate that quite a bit too. Throw that out again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, send them my way whenever.
Right on. Good deal. Good deal. Well, thank you for coming on, Joe. Thank you, Mikey. And thank you for tuning in. Here is your weekly motivational speech.
Life is a war. And there are people out there and there are things out there that are trying to take you down. Things are going to go wrong. And when things go wrong, it's pretty easy just to say, you know what, I'm going to stand down or I'm going to give up. And you can do that. But I think no. I think keep fighting. And you keep fighting and you keep fighting and you keep fighting no matter what. And you never quit. You never quit. And if you feel like your life is in a place where you can't get any lower and you don't think you can find any way out, good. Because that means the ultimate challenge is ahead of you. It means you can only go up. And it also means that things are going to be tough. Things are going to be tougher than anything you can imagine. But that storm that you're in, from your perspective, it seems like that storm is enveloping the whole world. But I'm telling you, it is not. The storm that you're in, it is hard to see out of that storm. It's hard to see past it. It seems like the storm is everything. But the storm is not everything. And it won't last forever. You can get out of the storm, and you will get out of the storm. And when you get out, you're gonna see the sun again. But right now, you're being tried. You're being forged. You're being tested by fire and by pain. That's the test. Don't fail the test. Don't fail the test. Don't give in. Don't quit. Don't ever quit. Fight on. Fight through the storm. Fight through the pain and come out the other side stronger and tougher and better. A fighter. A survivor. A winner. Victorious. And free from that storm. Free from the darkness. Free. Life can be hard. But you know what? It's the one life you've got. So go and live a life that in the end allows you to look back and say, hell yes, I do it all again.